find lists of native plants, lists of just host plants for butterflies throughout Georgia and this region. So as well as pollinators, other pollinators, and all the different information that you'll see up here will be in here on that list for you, okay? Yes, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. Agent from
Okay, now we're all set. We all have plans?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you do not have to drag these things to and from class, I don't think so. We're going to get started with our morning presentation, and after that we're going to do some soil testing. If you have not brought soil, don't worry about it. I asked you to bring 20 tons more than you need. You'll borrow some from your neighbor and then go do your own when you get home. And then we're going to have lunch, and then we have Tim Daly talking about weeds, weed ID, and pesticides today. So first up is the most fun presentation that I promise you, this whole class. We have our very own Forsyth County Master Gardener to talk to you about pollinator gardening, and this is Veronica Bowermaster. I'll do the lights for you if you want, and tell me you're good to go.
So like she said, I'm Veronica Bowermaster, and I'm an avid pollinator gardener. I've been more than 10 years, probably close to about 20 something, but officially at least more than 10 years. I'm also a nature photographer and a certified wildlife habitat in my own subdivision. So you can do it too. Pollinator gardening is not something that requires immense amounts of acreage. You could do it in a window pod if you really wanted to, okay? So the first thing we need to cover is plant reproduction. We all know about pollination, right? Okay, pollination is not the same thing as fertilization, but it is that leads to that. Without fertilization, through pollination, we do not get seeds or fruit or anything like that. So just to recap, the pistil are the female parts, the stamen are the male parts. You have your perfect flowers, your imperfect flowers that I'm sure you've read about in your book. Okay, there are, and this will also be on that disc, by the way, in case you want to agents. Wind, such as with gymnosperms and a lot of your grasses, the pollen will be dispersed on the wind. In a couple of months, our cars will turn yellow. Right? We're all familiar with that feeling. And you hose it off and all that pollen goes to the ground. So that is wind dispersal of pollination. Typically comes from a lot of your pine trees and your flowering trees and things like that. But the majority of our pollination occurs through insects. And that's when ripe pollen is taken from the stamens, it sticks to the insect's body somehow, either through their legs or on their fur or on their backs, or even other creatures, as we'll see. And then it flies to another flower and it deposits that pollen onto a receptive stigma. Okay, 3 types of pollination. There's self-pollination type 1, and that's basically when pollen from the same flower goes into the stigma of that very same flower. Another self-type of pollination, which is type 2, is when it goes from one flower of the same plant to another flower on that plant. So that's type 2. Cross-pollination is when you get one plant pollinating another plant of the same type. And then there's artificial pollination, and some of you have seen, especially with the melon industry, our vegetable gardeners will know you take that little brush and you get some from here and you put it over there to ensure that you have your pollination taking place.
Do you want the lights in?
Maybe a little bit. There is a short video on these. So the important thing to realize is that every single aspect of a flower, okay, and we have thousands of different types of flowers, every single part of it, every characteristic it has, from the color, the smell, the time that it blooms, the time of season that it comes out, the fragrance that it might have or not have, is all vital to that pollination process. They have evolved over thousands of years to lure pollinators to them, and that is their primary function, okay? So when I say pollinators, butterflies, what else? Okay. Birds, yep. Yep, we have the wind pollination.
Rodents?
Yes, rodents. Your flies and mosquitoes, your moths. Okay. Beetles. I know we don't like those Japanese beetles. They're very messy and they're not native, but bats. Do we have any master naturalists in here? Yeah, I know you know about the bats. Slugs and snails, believe it or not, those little gastropods, and your mammals and marsupials that will take care of that. So let's take a look at some of them. Okay, so here you have your moths. We have quite a few. Some of them tend to fly around in the late afternoon or even the early mornings. Sometimes they get in your house and they get really annoying. Okay, your bumblebees, your honeybees, your butterflies, your wasps. Now this one is a yellow jacket, and yellow jackets aren't too preoccupied with pollination, but they do their share. Your flies, your slugs, ladybugs, they're your birds, fireflies, and these guys. So, okay. Even our little squirrels, our pesky little squirrels, as highly intelligent as they are, they're doing their share as well. Okay? And they also have a big job with planting a lot of plants, your little rodents. This is the Mauritian gecko. It is solely responsible for the pollination of a plant in the island of Mauritius. Okay? But of course, the #1 winner, the leader, is going to be your bees. Okay? Your wasps, anything in the Hymenoptera family. Okay, there are 4,000 species of native bees in the United States. It's quite a few. Okay, they range anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to over an inch with the large bumblebees and everything. So sometimes when you're sitting outside and you feel like you're getting annoyed by that pesky little fly, be careful of smacking it because it could be a bee. Okay, and the bees will sometimes alight on people just like butterflies will too, to lick up the salts on your skin that you sweat. These are essential nutrients for them, and so they will sometimes land on you to do that. Now we also have sweat bees. They're a little more stealthy, and you usually don't feel them on you, but yes, be careful that, you know, we're not fly swatting bees. So they're in enough trouble, okay? They are responsible for 80% that takes place, okay? They were imported to North America in 1622 to Jamestown. They've been around since then, okay? Most of them are solitary, but some of them will group in hives. Stinging, when people are concerned with getting stung. Wasps are usually your big culprits, yellow jackets as well in this area. But typically it seems to be bees that take that route. Most of them will not sting you. Okay, males do not sting. Females are your worker bees, and they will only sting in extreme circumstances if you step on them, if you accidentally get a hold of them. And as we know, that is basically their swan song. They will die following that sting. Wasps can sting you as many times as they want, it doesn't matter. But they are very essential. There's $217 billion in global crop productions that is dependent on pollination through bees. Okay? So this is breakfast with the bees. Okay? Because we have bees, and they're so industrious and they do everything every day, we have this beautiful breakfast provided with compliments of them. Okay? They're responsible for $3 billion of the almond industry throughout California, mostly on the West Coast. The apple industry, $50.2 million. That's a lot riding on a tiny little insect. Okay? If they weren't around, your breakfast. Okay. The juice is gone. The milk for your coffee would be gone because bees pollinate the grasses that the cows forage. Okay, so we have no jellies, no almonds, no fruit, no melons. The melon industry is $400 million a year through pollination. One of the big things that is plaguing our bee populations, and I'm sure you've heard these words before, is colony collapse disorder. Okay. They have done a study which came out in the Wall Street Journal that talked about the annual loss of honeybee colonies. Most honeybees across America are maintained by beekeepers, and the beekeepers colonies of honeybees. Okay, since the 1980s, they've been using obviously different pesticides, but since 2010, they started of the honeybee colonies. And what happens is the bees just don't return. Okay? Bees is far from their colony, 5 miles more or less. They just one day. If they go beyond they noticed this happening since 2010, observing different trends. Responsible because of drought. If you'll notice, some of those years we either had extensive rainfall or drought, heavy droughts, increasing use of pesticides, the disruption of their seasonal cycles. Like most animals, bees need to rest, right? We don't get a good nightie the next day. Bees are the same way. They will work industriously throughout the season, and then during the winter, they will store up enough of their energy and everything to stay in the hive for the winter, venturing out basically only if it gets warm enough for them to do that. But they don't get that rest. Stuff shipped off to the West Coast. It's kind of like making kids go to year-round school. So, factors, environmental factors, but even though last year, the year before that, actually, in 2015, it basically jumped back up to 42. And that was kind of a strange year for us with Superstorm Sandy and all the different occurrences that occurred with global, a lot of things to consider. So, some other possible causes. The permitted culprit. That nasty word to use because they are very effective. How many of you have dogs? Okay. How many of you treat your dogs with frontline or some kind of flea and tick repellent? That contains imidacloprid. Okay. So there are chemicals that they use. These chemicals into the soil and actually become part of the genetic material of plants and the animals swim, the neck, they feel that it has some effect. What they're going to figure out is and test these different hypotheses that they have. Electromagnetic radiation. Oh my gosh, what is that? Cell phone towers, they emit tremendous of radiation. It's off? I don't know, but it merits looking into. Okay, and that's one of the things they're exploring. The loss of genetic diversity, because the beekeepers keep them all contained, they basically continue to mate with each other. So they're not passing on the bad traits, the lesser traits that make them more susceptible to disease and decline tend to get passed on as well. Malnutrition. Again, it'll move. I mean, imagine how stressed to be picked up and moved across and put to work someplace like that. That stress also considered contributes to their lack of creating the corridors and less planting and more clear-cutting divisions and that don't necessarily flower but can survive and look nice. So basically going hungry. They have nothing to eat. They have to fly further and further away to find the food, and they're getting lost along the way. Again, those rentals and migrations, shipping them off across the country. Parasites and viruses. Okay? Investigations have shown that there are varroa mites, and when a colony goes into collapse, not even other insects will come in and eat the honey. Just so you know, it's like the hive is just dead. The queen is left all by herself with nothing but a bunch of young worker bees to tend to her, and they don't really know their job yet. Okay, basically just sits there, and they're, you know, sometimes you'll get insects that are the soldier bees will protect the hive. That doesn't even happen. That would normally come in and eat that honey. Quality of them can get in honey within those hives that define. So, and this whole chart is actually on your seat. You'll be able to read it carefully in more detail. Okay. So, what can we do to contribute that? And that's really what this is about. Pollinator gardening, okay, or butterfly gardening as it's been called for so long. So when you're planting a garden, vegetable garden or everything on if you want to like, okay, and most of all, it takes patience. They're always a good canoe. One of the things you're going native. Okay? Native, but you will be rewarded in the end. So what plants are best adapted to the environment and will provide something that these animals need, these insects. Okay. Our native environment in the end is the primary consideration. You want to be bountiful, okay? You want to plant big patches here, one here, and one way over there is not going to get their attention. So you want to plant big patches if you can. That leads to better foraging. The patient gentle. This. House. They're not really out to her, trying to do what they need to do and get done. And so, you know, just kind of consider when you're walking through areas that maybe are not mown or high grasses. You want the most important chemical. Okay. I grow lots of butterflies in my backyard. I probably 4 butterflies. My napalms finally took off. And I know some people are like, Made pie, it was awesome. And they ate it all. Well, my neighbor had his house washed. It was decimated just from the overspray. Okay, so be very, very careful with chemicals. If you plan on doing any and hold off or do your butterfly and herbicides, they will take their toll. And these are very fragile little creatures. And when you create their environment, you want to have diversity. So you want to be able to support their 4 stages of life. Okay, and usually we talk about butterflies because they're the big caterpillars do all the work, the butterfly gets all the credit. So when we do that, we want to think about as caterpillars. What do they host on? So you want to put their eggs on, and for you want to have enough of it so that you don't run out, and then they eat your because of desperation, they will, believe it or not. It's almost tricky. You also want to provide, okay, and that will attract the adults to come in, and then they will lay their eggs. So it's kind of a system that works on itself. Then you want to have other specific plants, again, to help them, attract them and feed them and nurture them, right? You want to be a little messy. A lot of our butterflies and even our bees, reside underground. And we pack on 6 inches worth of mulch on top of a weed cloth. What happens to them? They're stuck. They die. They can't get out. Okay, so eliminate the weed cloth. You don't need it. Have you guys done integrated pest management yet? No? Okay. Will they? Yes. Yes? Okay. Well, when you get to the integrated pest management, they're going to talk about one of the means that you do, which is mechanical. You all familiar with that? It's pulling the weeds by hand. Okay? That's just one of the things we do. And keep in mind that some of those weeds might actually be a host plant, so be gentle when you pull, because there are lots of little critters and pollinators that actually feed on the grasses and what we consider weeds. So the difference between a weed and a plant is really a judgment, okay? So be a little messy, it's okay, they'll like it. The leaf clutter that falls down off some of these trees in the winter, instead of like cutting it up and maybe throwing it in the mulch pile, leave it at the base of your plants, because a lot of them will overwinter in that leaf litter, and then they come out again in the spring, right? You want to have small piles of branches. Small piles of branches will attract a lot of those butterflies and moths, and also some bees that will make their homes, the little mason bees. You can put up little bee houses. Those are also nice. And you want to be sunny. Most of these critters do enjoy sun. Okay? Butterflies in particular are solar powered. They cannot fly unless it's about 60 degrees outside. And they have to be between 80 and 100 degrees in order to be physically capable of flying. They are cold-blooded. They get their heat from the sun, or sometimes you'll see them there just kind of shaking their wings. It looks like they're trembling almost, and that's them trying to keep themselves up. Okay, so sun really helps. Sometimes you'll see them basking on rocks, which is one of the things they like to do. So you'll want to put some flat stones in there to create basking areas. And then you'll also want to create watering holes or puddling areas so that they can have a puddling party. If you have dogs, you might want to leave them up there too. They like that also, and it's not uncommon to send other pollinators perched on piles of poop. Doesn't make for a very pretty picture, but they get something out of it. Okay, so flower preferences. Do they have a particular flower preference? Yes, they do. Okay. Bees themselves like flowers that are yellow, blue, or purple. Okay. Sometimes you'll see them on red flowers, but they can't see red. The only red flowers they typically might go to are things like bee balm, like the Monarda, because it actually reflects infrared light or ultraviolet light, and so they see that. But for the most part, it's yellow, blue, and purple. Okay. Occasionally, if you get those orangey yellows, they will also fight over that. Okay. They also have very short tongues, so they like little packed clusters of flowers. If you'll notice, like the edge of the innards of the marigolds, the Veronicas here, the sedum, and your asters and everything. They like those short little blooms so that they can get their shallow tongues in there. Okay, butterflies, oh, they don't care. Okay, they like red, they like orange, they like yellow, pink, blue, purple, doesn't matter to them. Okay, whatever it is, as long as it has lots of nectar and they can get their long proboscis in there, they're happy. Now they need to be able to land in order to feed. So butterflies have to land. Okay. So if it provides the nectar they need and has a landing surface, you will likely find them on it. And these are all butterflies from my yard, by the way. Okay. Moths. Moths typically prefer light colored, so white, yellow flowers. Okay. Typically those that open up at dusk. Okay. So right in those early twilight hours. So you have your sphinx moths, your tersa moth, the evening primrose, which grows here, the evening primrose moth, and then your red maple moth. Okay, so light colors and early evenings. Beetles. Beetles like little bowls. They don't care about the color. They just like it to be a little bowl that they can get into. Okay, so if it's a flat surface, they will certainly get in there. Now, beetles are known as what's called mess and soil pollinators. They're very messy. Sometimes they even chew up the flowers, which makes us a little bit angry as gardeners. But when you're doing pollinator gardening, you have to be willing to sacrifice your blooms and the appearance of some of your plants. Okay, your caterpillars and everything, they might decimate your whole plant, but they're not going to kill it. So you have to be willing to give it up. Basically, don't plant a prized host plant in your garden there because they'll eat it. Okay. But the beetles are known as mess and soil pollinators. They'll get in there, they'll chew on stuff, they'll leave their little mess behind, and you'll know they've been there. But they are fairly effective at what they do. And they're kind of fun to watch too, especially the ladybugs. And in the case of the ladybugs, of course, we know the ladybug is one of our beneficial insects. And a pollinator garden doesn't exist in a vacuum. You need to have lots of diversity. So since you're not using pesticide, one of the best things you can do is encourage your beneficial insects to show up. If you get a whole round of aphids that show up, get to the store and buy a bunch of ladybugs and let them take care of it. They will, I promise you, within 2 days they'll be gone. Or you can wash the aphids up, which is pretty easy. That's one of the techniques you can use in the garden as well, in lieu of pesticide. Just wash those insects off, they'll drown, or they'll fall off the plants and be consumed by other predators. They're so awesome, okay? Really great pollinators. They have amazing, amazing eyesight, okay? They obviously love red. They love purple, okay? They love orange. They have a horrible sense of smell. Okay. And the cool thing about hummingbirds is if you've ever gotten to see one up close, they have like this little tongue that darts out and sips. It's really cool. They are highly territorial, and if you do put out feeders to supplement so that you're cleaning your feeders on a weekly basis, especially in the hot sun. The best things to do is to plant the flowers, because the flowers really don't have an expiration date other than when they die. So you don't have to worry about things going sour when you use flowers. So they like long tubular flowers. So there's the bee balm, your salvia, the petunias. I'm not really sure what that is. So, but they do love the spires, tall plants, and anything that they can get their little tongue into to sip up all that nectar. So, and they, boy, will they fight. Notice that a lot of the plants that they are interested in tender, so that it brushes the pollen onto the tops of their heads, and that's why so things like they really fuchsia that are the purple and white and purple, they have that hanging down of that same lines. It almost looks like a downcast flower, so that as they fly in there, it brushes all the pollen on top, and then they go off and continue their pollination process. Okay, flies. We don't like flies, but they have a really important function. Flies tend to like green, white, cream-colored flowers with really strong odors. And that can go one way or the other. It can either smell really, really good or really, really bad. Okay, chives in my garden, and they love the flowers, love it. That makes the garlic chives a really great addition to the garden, because they fill out quite nicely and you have these beautiful blooms. But you will see the flies going crazy on them. And yes, they smell like garlic. Okay? So even those corpse flowers that you hear about that take years to bloom, they love those. They will come for miles. The bees, very short tongues, so they also need that bowl-shaped flower as well, and you'll notice that it's very bowl-shaped. Big landing surface, small clusters, lots of flowers as well. And I'm going to say this for the flies, because you can't say much else nice about them. Without them, the midges in particular, we would not have. So let me change your perspective on pollinators. Without them, the cocoa plant that we grind up to make the chocolate. So, just a little, just a tad, if you'll give me that, for the poor flies, as miserable as they are. Yes, they give us chocolate. Okay, so thank you, flies. Bats. Now, here we don't have any pollinator bats. We do have a couple of bats. Four different bats?
Oh, we have tons of different bats.
We do. We have tons of different. I thought there were 4 different species.
No, there are probably about 12 in Georgia, but there are only 4 or 5 that are common.
Common around here in this area. Okay. Bats will do a lot of pollinating. They like, of course, your fruity flowers, night blooming flowers. They do a lot of pollination in the deserts of the Southwest, and also in your tropical rainforests where they live in abundance. So, but they are very important to pollination as well. So we're going to give a little shout out to our bat friends, even though they look kind of creepy. Okay, so basic design elements of a pollinator garden. You need to have at least 6 hours of sunlight per day. Okay, got to get that solar power going. It needs to be sheltered from the winds. These are small insects, so they can get blown off course quite easily. You'll notice when it's really windy outside, you don't really see too many of them. Kind of an interesting observation. When it's windy, now if it's about to rain or just finished raining, they're all over the place. You're like, wow. Okay. So shelter from wind. If you have a really windy spot, but it's got the sun you need, you might want to consider putting in a windbreak of sorts to help shelter that.
What would be a windbreak?
A windbreak would be installing larger trees to kind of just break up the surface. So with our topography here in Georgia, you know, there are areas that, you know, with the change in pressure, that's what creates the wind. So if you have like a low-lying area that's really sunny and it'd be perfect, then you want to make sure that you protect it from that wind. You want to have your nectar-rich bloom track the bud, and then the host plants for laying eggs. Okay. And there are literally hundreds, thousands of plants you can choose from. Native, ornamentals, deciduous, annuals, you name it. Okay? And there are lists upon lists of them for whatever your preference is when you decide to do this on the CD that I gave you. Okay? Even for every season, you want to make sure that these plants that you put into your garden will cover all the different seasons. So you want things that flower in spring, you want things that are flowering in the summer, and you want them flowering in the fall as well. Okay? Moist sand or mud for puddling. So if you take like the top of a bird bath or the drainage dish of a pot and you kind of bury it and you put some sand in it or water, you can do that. You can also just leave a little area. Our clay holds water extremely well. You can sprinkle a little bit of sea salt in there, which gives them those salt nutrients that they require. So keep sea salt, okay, not regular iodized salt. Yeah, just buy a little container of sea salt and you can just sprinkle it in there and keep that area moist. And you'll see them, they congregate there. They have puddle parties. And for the light colored flat surfaces for basking in the sun, this helps them keep their heat up and their circulation going. You also want to make sure you put in a nice observation spot for yourself. Don't hide your butterfly garden. Don't hide the fruits of your labors. You want to be able to enjoy what you've done and what you're putting into and enjoy everything that's going to come and visit. Okay? So 4 basic things to remember: food, water, shelter, space. That's what makes a habitat. Food, water, shelter, and space. And it doesn't necessarily, like I said, it does not have to be acres and acres of land that you devote to this. It could be a container. It could be one of those enviro, you know, herb pots, the standing pots that they have now that they sell. You could do one in there and have it near a window where you can enjoy everything that will come and visit and fill that area. So it's entirely up to you. You have many choices in this, but the important thing is to create that corridor, that pathway, so that foraging insects can get what they need.
A question.
Yes.
Host plants, you said it can be anything. I mean, does it have to be green all year? Does it have to be?
You know, some of your host plants will die out in the winter, just like everything else. Some may not come back, some may be annuals, so you have to replant them. Host plants simply mean that is the butterfly's preferred plant to consume in the caterpillar stage. So the adults will lay their eggs only on those plants so that they can provide the nutrients for those caterpillars.
She said there are hundreds of them.
There are different types, and there are particular types for each butterfly. So depending on what butterfly you hope to attract, you will have to select the host plant for that particular butterfly and the nectar attractors. Nectar attractors can pretty much be anything. You'll notice in a lot of these photos, there's the Buddleia davidiae, which is the butterfly bush, very, very common. There's been a lot of controversy with some of those butterfly bushes. Some people say that they are becoming extremely invasive in parts of the country. It is very possible that they could be. I have not noticed too many of them being invasive here. I only had 3 opportune plants that kind of popped up somewhere, and it's kind of cool because I took them out and I put them somewhere else. But deadheading is a technique that you'll want to use with, especially the butterfly plants, and that will help prevent that invasive conduct or that invasive potential with the plants. So once the bloom is spent, you just snip it off, pop it away. Now, yes?
Another question about host plants, is there a local source for milkweed, for monarchs?
There are seeds available. Usually it's best grown by seed. The native kind is the orange one. Sometimes you'll see it on the sides of the road. If you see it, it's Asclepius or milkweed. Okay, there are several different species, about 50-something different species of Asclepius and milkweed. A few will grow here in Georgia. They are all great nectar plants, but as far as host plants and having that survival edge in our climate, soil, I won't call it dirt, the orange ones are the ones that are native to our region, okay? You can take seeds. If you see them on the road and you're like, oh, I really want to take that home, they don't transplant well. Okay, so take seeds. The dispersal is great. They do need some stratification, meaning they need to be in the cold before they'll sprout. So you can take the seeds and plant them, and then usually it reseeds itself.
Is it commercial?
There are several stores that do sell the seeds. You can also purchase them online.
Can we take a little break for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Because since we're running on those questions, I have some seeds for you. From the Monarch Society. Yes.
So the Monarch Society is one of the groups that is intending to create, now we haven't quite gotten to the monarchs yet, but we can. They encourage the planting of native milkweed. Again, because it has, I'm sorry. Do we have the rest of this book? Okay. Thank you. Now, the monarchs get a ton of publicity. Butterfly, it's true, the honeybee populations, the monarch populations, the monarchs are most crucial because they make that 2,000 mile, more than 2,000 mile migration to the West Coast. Some of them will go to California, some will go to Michoacan, Mexico. And they'll brood in forests. You'll see them climbed up on the trees, and they'll overwinter there. So because they travel that extensive distance, that's why they're trying to encourage people to plant milkweed. Now, will you get a butterfly, a monarch butterfly farm here? No, you won't. In this region, typically the monarchs that pass through here will come around October, from September through October, and it will be in a migratory pattern. So they'll be making their way. So yes, you want to have that milkweed there to support them. Sometimes you may get an occasional monarch, wayward monarch, that will lay some eggs on that milkweed, and then you're like, holy cow, there's a frost coming in 2 days. What do I do? Well, you can lovingly lift that milkweed and take it inside and hope that you can grow it on your own and it will become a butterfly, but do not release it unless the temperatures go back up. And we know here in Georgia, the temperature goes down. So you can bring them indoors. Just continue to provide plants if you need to snip them or if you put them in a little pot so that it continues to stay alive. And you can get different types of butterfly enclosures. I have about 6 of them in the house. Laundry hampers, the zip college laundry hampers are really convenient for that. And of course, my husband goes crazy. He's like, what is this, laundry day? And I'm like, no, it's butterfly day. There's a frost coming. So I have about 3 laundry hampers down now. I'm down by 3. And they're holding my overwintering butterflies at this point. I'm not going to be able to release them until the spring. They're just kind of hanging out. But you want to have these milkweeds in your gardens throughout different areas if you want, so that they can move. It's basically to provide them with the energy they need to make that journey. All right, and we're going to watch a short video on that. It's really cool. So some pollinator-friendly practices, which we talked about. Avoid the using of pesticides. Help them find the plants by planting them in clumps. Okay, so these seeds you've got, put them like in a big clump. Kind of spread them out so it's a big wide swath, something that they can see. So if I hold up an orange, and I'm 15 miles away, you're not really going to see the orange, are you? Okay, but if I'm waving a big giant flag, you'll probably catch that from 15 miles away, at least a glimpse of it. So it's the same thing for them. These flowers function as flags, kind of leading them in like an airport, the landing strip. Okay, you can build those bee condos and little bee houses and everything, and that will help attract them and keep them in your area. You want to avoid the modern hybrid plants. They're really showy and really beautiful, but that's all they're bred for. Those double flowering varieties and things like that. That's all fine and good. Save that for your showcase garden. And you can certainly put it in there for color and everything, but they're not really going to harvest a lot of the pollen and nectar from those. Because sometimes when they create those varieties, the process that they go through to create those hybrids, you sacrifice scent. We have these beautiful tea roses, and they're gorgeous to look at, but they don't really smell like roses do. So you sacrifice something in the way of creating these beautiful flowers. So you want to avoid those. You want to plant that variety to keep different things blooming from spring to early fall, which is when they're operating. Use your native plants, include your plants for caterpillars and everything. So, and again, I can't say it enough, don't use pesticides. So here's a short video on our monarchs. Oh, whoops. Hopefully it'll work. Please work. It was so pretty. Oh. I'm sorry. It doesn't want to show the video.
Right click.
Let me go to the previous slide and come back into it.
Maybe a buffer.
Was there an icon or something that came up?
No, it,
You might be able to go out of show mode, slideshow mode,
And
and
then click on
manually
file.
click it. Just press escape.
Escape.
Just press escape. Again.
yeah. It killed it. I'm so sorry. Well, I will invite you to, it's a video, it's readily available if you do a Google search for it. It's called The Monarch Migration, and it's from Butter in Coconut Creek, Florida. Great place if you're ever traveling through Florida. You'll want to, but it's just instrumental. You just watch the life of a monarch caterpillar being born, how they're in casing that they hatch out of, and they stay in egg form for about 2 days. Then they become a caterpillar. They are a caterpillar for approximately 2 weeks, okay? And then they pupate. They become a pupa. Chrysalis is the word we use for butterflies. Cocoon is for them. Okay, so there is a and they're happy. Some butterflies and moths in particular, have a very short lifespan. Luna moths that are in this area, they don't even have mouths. So they don't even become moths. Their whole purpose and reproduce. And then else to do that. Okay. Caterpillar just like it's on. But yes, so things like that. Some of our moths, they don't have mouths, so people get all worried. Oh, it's gonna bite me! No, it's not. You know, and I can poke you with a piece of straw and it would hurt more. All right, so I'm sorry that the video didn't come through, but it is a really wonderful, uplifting, almost emotionally stirring video on the monarchs, because when you see them in the trees in Michoacan, it's just such a spectacle. And they will, and then they basically, and they die. So it's almost heartbreaking in a way that something so beautiful is just so ephemeral.
There's a playback.
We can try it.
Try that.
We'll try it.
Yeah.
Oh well, we try. Monarch migration. You can find it if you do a Google search. It's 6 minutes and 17 seconds long, if that helps. Don't watch the 53-minute long video unless you really want to. Gardening is getting kids involved. Okay. This is my daughter. She's an MG sprout, by the way. We happened across a monarch that was traveling, and it literally collapsed in the yard. It couldn't make it to the garden. We were concerned that it was dying. The weather was going to get really cold that night, and I plucked whatever remaining flowers I had. You'll see penta, and I figured I'm just going to feed it as best I can. And we brought it in, we put it inside a window, and it stayed overnight. And I was a little concerned that she was 4 at the time, and find it. Maybe have to explain that process to her. But it was alive. And when the sun came out, and it was one of our beautiful Georgia days, I took it outside on a whim, and it flew away. Okay? But she spent hours watching that. And you don't get that kind of response from video games. Well, maybe you do anyway. So getting children involved, whether it be your grandchildren or local children in the neighborhoods, your pollinator garden can become a place of learning for them, and to instill in them a stewardship and kinship with this earth that we're on. I mean, it's all about protecting the future and the well-being of our world. And pollinator gardening will be that. And we're dependent on our children to carry on that desire to protect that. And so she's very, very emotional when it comes to butterflies. Okay. What happened here? No. Okay.
So just want to go to slideshow, start at existing slide, present slide.
Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. So at this point, are there any questions you might have?
Are those your photographs?
A lot of them are, yes, unless they have like a little copyright thing on there. Yes, you had a question in the back.
Oh, anyway, when you turn that butterfly in, does it just stay on the flower?
At the time that I brought it in, I didn't have an available enclosure for it. I have since bought probably half a dozen of the small little zippered cases that they can reside in because of the cats. More than anything. Butterflies and cats, it's a tricky situation. But that particular one, because of its state of exhaustion, and you could just tell the way it would try to flop and then flop to the ground, and you know, it was heartbreaking. And I really thought, well, it's probably gonna die, and well, I'll just keep it in a case and my daughter can look at it. But no, it kept on going. It just needed. Garden will become a way station, a rest stop for these animals. Okay. Again, I can't stress it enough. No pesticide. Keep it all out of this area. Save that for someplace else, or be very, very selective when and if you use it. Okay. They are, like I said, many of them are solar powered. So if you must apply something, if you have a vegetable garden that's being invaded, apply it later in the afternoon when they're no longer around. And be very aware that of whatever you're applying, its residual tendencies may be. Is it something that will stay? Is it something that's aerosol and is going to drift someplace else? So make sure you're aware of the manufacturer specifications.
Thank you. That's been really inspiring. I just wonder, are you familiar with the Rosamond Carter Monarch Butterfly Trail that the First Lady has lent her name to?
No, I'm not.
It's in South Georgia, but it's an effort to try and make a trail for those monarchs to do their
Yes, and that's what they're trying to do. And last year, they were monitoring the flight of the monarchs very, very carefully. As I said, there is a lot of publicity for them, but some people seem to be of the mind that, oh, if I plant tons of milkweed, I'm going to grow all these monarchs and everything. That won't happen. So you need to have a realistic expectation. This is, it's a rest stop. So it's a question of, if you went on a road trip across the country, you would need to make several stops to do what normally people need to do within 24 hours, and eat and just rest and, clear yourself of that exhaustion and be fresh for the renewed journey. It's the same concept. And that's what they're trying to do with the Monarch Society and sharing the seeds and everything for the regional areas. Because with all agriculture that's taking place, you have these large monocultures, basically, of plants. Big giant soy fields, and they treat the soy fields with these huge amounts of pesticide and everything to keep them free of weed, herbicide to keep the weeds and insecticide to stop whatever beetles or anything may be attacking them. But that it can drift, and as some of these giant fields, they have nothing to eat. So they milk. Weed. I've seen them. They come out of these and they have the little ones, and they basically drift through the sky. So they are very, prone to wandering, and they take to the wind in order to scatter. But all those things that they're using in the fields will basically decimate that, which means they have no food. They have no way to stop, no way to get it. And then make the trip. But this past year, they did notice that the population was rather strong. It was optimistic, the outlook, but again, it fluctuates because of climate, because of different weather events and everything. So, but I will look into that. That's wonderful.
Do we have any community pollinator?
We actually have, with the Master Gardeners, there is a pollinator garden located at the Hampton Park Library that you can visit, and you can also volunteer at. I know they're always looking for help. And they're in the process of working at the Poetry Garden at Post Road, and they want to include pollinator garden elements there as well. So that's something, on this side of 400 that is coming up soon. And
we're trying to incorporate some of that into our article.
okay. I know at the St. Joseph, which is in the process of shutting down, we had a great harvest this past year. Introduced it was just a small box, a raised box of a pollinator garden. And they had so many tomatoes, they actually had watermelons, it was amazing. You also,
Can I just add something to the conversation
Yes.
about the migration?
Mhm.
There's actually called Journey North. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. So I actually in October, I recorded it. I have it on my phone. It's an app. It's really cool. So if you want to talk about
Yeah, Journey North. You can have it on your smartphone. If you spot certain species of butterflies, the migratory butterflies, you can actually report them so that they can make accurate counts. The North American Butterfly Association also does a number of counts they get to test the viability of a certain zone. Obviously, if things are not going well, these populations will decline very, very quickly. Your butterflies are very sensitive to environmental change, your bees as well. The monarch watch also, when I was in Florida, and in Florida I was raising probably about anywhere between 600 to 1,000 monarchs a year in a small little shoebox garden. Basically, it was a very tiny garden, but the weather in South Florida was just perfect for that. And they used to send me the stickers, and I would put the stickers on the butterflies as they hatched before they flew away. They don't hinder the butterflies in any way, and then they would take off across the country. And people would call it. If you ever see a butterfly, particularly a monarch, with a sticker, you can contact them at the Journey North or through Napa. And report, hey, I saw this butterfly. They have a number, and you say it's this butterfly went through, and they can actually tell you. It'll map out, oh, that butterfly is from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it's, you know, it was tagged in Ohio or something, and they'll tell you all that information. So, features available for this as people become more aware of what's going on. The pollinator garden does not exist in a void. You need to have that diversity. Welcome all different sorts of life. You can't say, oh, I only want butterflies. You can't pick and choose. Sorry. Okay. So without using any pesticides or herbicide or anything beyond manual, like, okay, this is really annoying, I'm going to rip this out. You will get all kinds of different things that will come around and make your garden their home. From the damselflies to the little goldfinches that will, okay? Even the carpenter bees, which, you know, nobody likes the carpenter bees, right? You know, most people, I see people, like my neighbors running out with tennis rackets, hitting them, and I'm like, oh, you know, poor bee. But they're really, really cool. And they actually do this thing called buzz pollination. And they'll like sit on the flowers and they'll be like, and like shake it all up. And it's like, oh wow, you know, we should play some like Casey and the Sunshine Band for it while it does that. But you'll get your skinks, which are native, your black and yellow Argeo spiders, which are fabulous. And my pest control guy, when he comes around, I use only green chemicals and only in certain areas. But I told him, I said, don't ever touch my spiders. I'll hurt you. And I think he's genuinely scared because he leaves all my spiders exactly where they are, you know, even if they're like in the doorway. He's like, I'm just going to leave that to you. Don't touch Charlotte. So yes, this was one actually that I had outside the window, and it would battle anything from other daddy longlegs to katydids, you name it. And again, it's a cool thing when it happens, especially if you have those grandkids running around or kids of your own running around, or even for you to watch and see, like, wow, this is happening right there in front of me. You know, you can see it. Get a camera if you don't already have one. You know, let they come by to say hello. Hi. Thanks. You'd be surprised the little things that you miss when you're not paying attention. The hair-streaked butterfly, and we have two different types. There's the red spotted and the gray hair-streaked. They will do a little dance. They're about this big. And they'll get on flowers, and then they'll do this. It's like a robot, you know? Okay? They're really, really cool. And I would have never known that from reading a manual or looking at a, you know, something that tells me, oh, that's this kind of butterfly. These are the things you pick up through observation. And it's so fulfilling and gratifying to know that you are continuing the cycle of life for hundreds of species. Okay? Microscopic and, you know, looking like stained glass flying around. They take care of so many pests in the garden. They'll also take care of your butterflies for you too, if you're not careful. So I have a tendency when my praying mantises get too large, I move them someplace else. Because I had a 6.5-inch praying mantis that was residing, and I thought, so cool, it's so awesome, it's big, it's huge, it's beautiful. And then I saw swallowtail, yellow tiger swallowtail comes in, and I'm like, look at that, the praying mantis and the swallowtail, it's so awesome. Look away for a second and come back and it's like watching a slasher flick. Like, no! So yes, so this one was really cute. It was only about that big, and I was like, you can stay. Okay. The little jumping spiders. Who knew that their mandibles were blue? Again, if you take the time to sit back and observe what you've worked so hard for, you will be rewarded. It's so orange. Fun too. I had come and killed them all. I would have never known that. So you can get all kinds of visitors. We do have 5 different types of hummingbirds that will visit in the area. So if you keep your hummingbird and ready throughout the winter, you may spot the right out from Texas or Florida during the winter, but they're quickly back again. And they do remember, so they will come back for you if you have fed them before. So, dragonflies are really cool, really good signs of health. As nymphs in the water, they take care of sisters, especially and now with Zika virus going around, again, you don't want to necessarily treat that water or the plants around it, but you can do beneficial things in your garden. To the cute little bunny that eats all the parsley. Sometimes I want to kill him, but he's safe. Okay, so you kind of make a home, and then the hawk comes and eats the bunny, and the bunny doesn't eat the parsley anymore. Yes, I had a hawk visit the garden as well. They will also eat the birds too, but that's okay. Some of those birds get pretty fat. So, are there any questions? Yes.
Who do you use for, like you said, you only do the green chemicals?
Mm-hmm.
Or what is that like? Or who is that?
Most of the companies that are in the area will offer a green environmental choice.
Like True Green and all those places?
They're safe for the home, safer for pets and children and everything. So,
okay.
Obviously, living with a lot of the woods we have, ticks can be a problem.
Right.
And, Lyme disease is a serious concern for people and pets.
Right.
But, you do want to explore some options, and there are some things you have to do. Again, just be aware and conscious that that's going to have an impact. It could if you let it go off somewhere else. So, any other questions? Yes.
What about things like you're talking about your lawn people, like the free work that they just put down in my yard yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
How is that really bad for all the plants, or obviously?
Well, usually with pre-emergence, you're talking about ground cover or turf maintenance. That it's usually not necessarily a problem unless they're broadcasting it into your garden areas, which typically they don't because they charge you bucks. Yes.
Will a hummingbird take nectar from a fruit tree sap?
Fruit tree sap, no, but they don't necessarily go for fruit trees. Necessarily, I mean, they can, but they're a little shallow. A lot of like apple blossoms and peach blossoms, those flowers are rather shallow. And as I said, hummingbirds tend to prefer a tubular mechanism that they can, basically they're like sipping through a straw. So, it's like, you don't put a straw in a teacup. So
I had a hummingbird old strong tree that does,
They may, I mean, it's possible. I have not personally experienced that or that, but that's certainly one of the things. No. come down. And they are rather pretty. So cute.
It was interesting when you say most honeybees are kept in homes, not natural. So we see them in the garden, they're probably coming from.
They're coming from a nearby hive or colony. Yes, and it's becoming increasingly more and more popular for people to keep beehives. Even from a single hive to, sometimes you'll just see like a box sitting in someone's yard and you're like, what is that? It's a beehive. We have a master gardener, General Hendricks, and he has a bee farm. So, there are many of them located in this area. So, yes, when you see them in your garden, they are coming from a colony, a colony that is somewhere within a 3 to 5 mile radius.
I don't recall the name, but there's a local group that promotes beehives.
There's, of course, I did on the.
There is, the Beekeepers Association, yes. So,
What do you tell, people that hate the carpenter bees and want to come? Because
my husband bee.
they're drilling into their deck or whatever, leaving a mess.
And that's understandable. Now, carpenter bees will typically drill into